if you guys are just as messy as we are, you know, like that's what they would say. So, so the idea as a podcaster in Canada or any type of content creator in Canada, this idea that we shouldn't like mention that we're here up here creating content is actually not true. uh, I think a lot of people around the world wants to know what's going on, especially the Black diaspora in the North American side of the world, and even like in on the east side of the world. They want to know like what how we think and what makes us different as Black Canadians, because we're not really pushed out there. And so that was kind of like one of the biggest catalysts why I created Black Canadian Creators, and I specifically made it a podcast and not a blog or anything. I wanted the world to know, A, we're up here and we're super interesting. And most of the time, when you look at YouTubers, TikTokers, Viners that are Black, they so many times I see it where they're surprised that that's a Black Canadian, like one of your popular, King Bach, like these kind of people. You'd be pleasantly surprised that most of the time they are Canadian or have some kind of like relationship to Canada, because we create amazing, amazing content. So I wanted to change that. And I wanted to also change the fact that we tend to have a problem to only give flowers to content creators or any type of creative person once they make it in the States. And I didn't want that. And so I want people to discover and give the flowers to content creators as they're growing, and don't have to wait to give them their flowers once, like, oh, you're on a TV show now, or you're like, you know what I mean, you're doing your stuff in LA now, like, or the America's recognizing you as a content creator or as a musician or whatever, like that makes you legit. I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of stop, like, be in the way and of that, and to kind of like, no, you don't have to wait to give their flowers just because they made it in the States. You know what I mean? So that was another reason why I created the space, and I'm hoping the space will be a platform for people to meet each other, see each other. We had like our first like event back in March last year, no, May last year, called Soulful Bites, where we partnered with a restaurant that's up and coming, and we're like, look, we'll invite a bunch of Black content creators to kind of be in your space because it's beautiful and it's going to give us an opportunity to network. And I was shockingly surprised that there were some content creators. Like, one of them is a couple, an interracial couple that talks about, I think, finance. I think his name is Peter. I could be wrong, but or Steven. I think it's Steven. Anywho, but they were just recently spotlighted on Toronto Star for influencers that you need to know in
Wow.
Toronto. And so he showed up. People like Ryan Hickson from Eat Famous showed up. Like, these are people who have
Oh, nice.
250,000 followers. Natalie, like Natty P, who's like an amazing travel content creator, showed up. And I was like, I had to ask them, what are you doing here? A huge influencer.
Yeah.
Like, you're a huge content creator. What are you doing here? And they said, you know what? This is the first time in how many places and brands that it invites them to so many things, that I'm in a space where I see myself. I'm
Mm.
with other content creators who look like me, who understands and speaks my language, because usually when they get invited to these spaces, it's only them. It's like you could count in one hand, right? So there's this need, like, there's an amazing journalist, Nana Haba. She has a podcast production company called Media Girlfriends. And I I took the chance to kind of like say, hey, a couple of podcasters and I are going to Philly to check out Afros and Audios. You want to come? The girl came all the way from like Ottawa, and she's like, yes. So there's this need, regardless of how big or small a Black Canadian content creator is. There's this dire need to connect and see each other outside of,
Mm.
beyond our laptops. And that's what I gathered from them. So that's what I want to create more. That's why
Like,
I'm doing things like the Soundwave Summit, where I invited like a good like 8 to 10 Black Canadian podcasters to participate in this event in order to give them the spotlight, and also for people out who are non-Black to know, like, hey, these are, yes, they're podcasters, yes, they happen to be Black, but they create really good content that can help you think a little bit outside of your norm or see the world differently through their eyes, through their experience. And so I'm really proud of that, and I'm excited that in on June 6th, when the Soundwave Summit happens, that people out, who are outside of the Black community will experience and know what a Black Canadian podcaster think like, and you know and how they create their podcast.
Shirley and I had so much to talk about, so we jumped onto another Zoom call. But I think I'll leave that for the next episode. I thanked Shirley for being on the show and asked her to provide us with her contact details.
You could find me, any Black Canadian creators on Instagram and Facebook, Black Canadian CC on Twitter, or if you just search for the Chonilla Network, which is CHONILLA network.com, is one way to find me. But honestly, if you just Google Black Canadian creators, you're gonna find me. You're gonna
Yeah.
find either my name, or you're gonna find some form of a social account or story related to Black Canadian creators.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. It's been a learning experience too.
Thanks,
And
Michelle.
and I
I've been watching you. I've been listening. You have been in my radar, so that's why I said yes so fast.
oh
I was
my
like,
gosh.
oh, I know her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thanks for joining me for the latest episode of Words with Michelle, the podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on Apple Podcasts. Just a reminder, you can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions or would like to provide feedback, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at michelle@wordsofmichelle.com. You can also email me if you have inquiries regarding sponsoring the show. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.